Hi everyone, Leanne Pilkington here. This episode of Courageous Conversations contains sensitive subject matter regarding mental health and potentially some confronting or triggering topics. If you or someone you know is struggling with mental health or anything mentioned in this episode triggers you, please remember that help is available 24 hours a day from Lifeline at 13 11 14, or of course call 000 if a life is in danger.
Of course, we know that our jobs were really, really challenged in how we had to deal with all the different situations with rent not being paid, etc. Apart from the fact that we ourselves, might have had husbands, in other industries that they've lost their job, but we had to just focus on what we were doing with helping our clients. And I think, yes, property managers have really been impacted, and anyone who is still in the industry after all that, oh my God, how resilient they are, let me tell you.
You're listening to Elevate, the official podcast of Elite Agent for real estate industry sales professionals, property managers and leaders. We are proud to present Courageous Conversations, a podcast series focusing on the tough decisions people have made to put themselves on a pathway to success. This episode is brought to you by Connect Now, who makes the business of moving easier for both you and your clients. For more information, visit connectnow.com.au. Please welcome your host, Leanne Pilkington.
Hey everyone, Leanne Pilkington here with the latest edition of Courageous Conversations, and with me I have the most influential woman in real estate for 2021. 2020. Laura Valenti. Welcome, Laura. So lovely to see you.
Thanks, Leanne. I remember you took over that in 2021, so that's your crown.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that wasn't that long ago, actually. That was yeah. So tell me, what did you do to achieve that accolade? Because that's it is a big call. There's a lot of incredible women in our industry doing some great things. Tell us about what you did to win that.
Yeah, it's a good question. You just do what you do, I guess. I think a part of it was what we were doing as the response to COVID, because that was right in the middle of COVID and there was not even a ceremony or anything, and I just got a pack, a nice box with a certificate, didn't get to pick up a trophy or anything.
I'm so glad I didn't win that year.
I know. I was ripped off.
You were.
But no, it was nice. And I think a lot of it had to do with the things that we were doing in domestic family violence.
Okay, tell me a little bit more about that. What do you do?
So just recognising that there's been a lot that has come out in the public in the past 2 years, I'd say, brought on by COVID and people needing safe houses to be locked down in. And I think it was in the sort of beginning of 2020, we started to understand how much domestic family violence was around that you just didn't see.
Can I tell you, I had a statistic just this morning that said 40% of all crime in Queensland is domestic violence. 40%.
I saw that. I heard that. But, I was speaking in our little area, which is the Moreton Bay region north of Brisbane, the police say that 60% of their call-outs are domestic family violence related. Yeah.
Wow.
So it takes up a lot of resources. So, when you talk about even the crisis responses, the main thing is for these survivors to have a place to go to. And all the statistics say that if there's nowhere to go, then they're just going to stay where they are for the benefit of the kids, or, where do they go? Some of them go to refuges, crisis accommodation, but it just sounds awful. There's hardly any room. They're all just sleeping, I don't know, on little cots, and they just go, you know what, I'd rather go home and face that than have my kids sleeping in a big room with everyone else. So unfortunately, the reason that they do go back is that they don't have a place to stay. So, the idea of housing is just intrinsically entwined with helping people get out of DFB situations, because if there was a place to go to, then that's the first step. That's when they can then leave, have a safe place, and then start to get all of the all the things they need, the counselling, the connection to legal services so that they can start to rebuild their lives. But you can't have any of that if you don't have a safe place to live. And of course, what do? We are in housing, in private housing. So real estate agents, but more so property managers, because DV survivor is not going to leave and then buy a house. There's no time for that anyway. So they're going to look for rental accommodation, aren't they? And so the private rental market has a really huge part, I think, to play in allowing these survivors to at least find a place to stay that's safe.
So from a practical sense, what did you actually do?
There's two kind of situations. There's the tenants that are already with us that a DV situation happens and we have to assist ending that lease safely and allowing the victim to move on and go through all the different legislation that has to happen. And there's also people coming to us who are fleeing DV situations. And, I keep saying it's not a lot that we have to do to make a real difference. And one of them is just that we're aware and we have an awareness, in all of our staff have an awareness of what to look for in a DV situation, what to look for when you're going on a routine inspection. If you see, strange behaviour and you see some damages to walls, kind of think, this could be, know. And so it starts with the awareness. And then if we have someone who needs some extra assistance, we actually know what to do. And sometimes all it takes is, listen, okay, you're interested in that property. How about a private inspection? I'll take you through at 5:30 at a time that suits you, because, often they're controlled by their partner. And so there are only certain times that they can leave the home. So you just work in with that. That's not hard to do. Some of them, they say...
That awareness though, right? You need to be really... so do you have special training for your team?
Look, it's just videos that have been put out by the REIQ in conjunction with Q Shelter. They've got, and they're really just little micro learning videos that it took me an hour at the most to watch all the videos and read the literature. And after an hour, I felt like my eyes were just wide open. I can't close them again. Now, when I see things, I automatically think, is there something going on there?
Yeah.
So it's the awareness that we're all about, that agents need to be aware. And I'll tell you a little story. So after being aware of all this and speaking to tenants who are fleeing situations and assisting where we can, I was interviewing for staff a couple of months ago, and there was this girl I was interviewing. She was a property manager. She'd been in the industry 4 years. And I asked her, what's a situation where you had to deal with some sort of conflict? She said, I was at a routine one day at an inspection, and there was damage to the wall. There was a big hole in the wall, and I had to speak to the tenants about it. And I said, what? Yeah, tell me more. And she said, the wife was really, really nervous and really apologetic, and she was almost crying. And I said, what was the partner there? She said, yeah. And I said, what was he like? Look, he was really, very, very helpful and charismatic. And I looked at her and I said, do you have any idea what may be going on here? And she just blank, and she just had no idea what I was talking about. And I said, do you think that maybe there was a DV situation going on there? And she just went, maybe, So it's just that awareness that she had no idea, working 4 years as a property manager. I would have seen this so many times. And I've got to say, that was me 2 years ago. I don't have any experience with that, thank goodness. None of my close friends that I knew of. But once you start learning, you open your eyes, and then people come to you and they tell you, once I started talking about it in our office, out of 16 women, 4 had either had that experience or were currently in that experience, whether it was...
It's horrifying how I do know people around me that have had that experience in the past, and colleagues, it's surprising how often it happens. It really is.
It is surprising, and once you start that conversation, it's really amazing how many people come and go, you know what, happen to me, because there is that stigma. They feel embarrassed. They, they're a professional, strong woman. How could I allow myself to get into this situation?
And people, if you haven't experienced it, you can be a bit judgmental, right? Oh, why would you stay? I wouldn't stay. And it's like, well, you actually don't know what you would do, because it depends on so many things, right?
Yes, and when they see how, empathetic we are to our tenants, and we try to help them, then they realise that, oh, look, they're not judgmental. They understand that people there, but for the grace of God, go I. So I think it's up to us as a community to be aware and help with the prevention of DFE. And I think, additionally, as real estate agents and property managers, we need to be aware. And how many, like, you think about it, how many other people can walk off the street and legally, with notice, legally walk into every single room in a property, in the cupboards, in the bathrooms, with a camera, and take note of what's going on.
I've never thought about that, but you're absolutely right.
And that's what we do. Legally, we have the right to do that every 3 to 6 months. And so not even their caseworker would do that, would they? Not even their best friend or their cousin would do that. They'd stay in the lounge room and talk to them. So what a responsibility we have to report anything that we see that maybe nobody else sees.
Yeah, wow, that's a really interesting take on it. And I love that REIQ have got those resources. So if any of our viewers or listeners are members of REIQ, definitely reach out, and I will be checking in with the New South Wales Institute to see if we've got that available, and if we haven't, we will.
They're great. The REIQ and Antonia in particular have been really active since about 2017 when they started all this. And so the resources were already there. And so I was able to just train myself and my staff, and we could make a start. And so the videos actually are available to anyone. They're not just REIQ members. And if you get onto our, we've got a special website from our other company we formed, Safe Home Alliance. I've sent you those details, I think. So if you get onto that website and you click onto agent resources, all of those videos are there. Yeah.
Fantastic. All right. Well, I will get Renee to put that link into the show notes. That is amazing. All right. Well, I want to change gears a little bit. We've all been through, it feels like a decade of COVID, but we're into year 3 now. Can you even imagine it? We're into year 3. What have been the challenges? I mean, I know we've all had challenges with, remote work and all that sort of stuff, but specifically, how have you found that it's challenged you personally and your leadership?
It has been tough, of course, but, look at the big picture. We still have our business. We still have our jobs. I didn't have to put anyone off. Property management in particular fared really well in that, the jobs are still there. We didn't have to worry about, am I going to lay someone off? But of course, we know that our jobs were really, really challenged in how we had to deal with all the different situations with rent not being paid, etc. Apart from the fact that we ourselves, might have had husbands, in other industries that they've lost their job, but we had to just focus on what we were doing with helping our clients. And I think, yes, property managers have really been impacted, and anyone who is still in the industry after all that, oh my God, how resilient they are, let me tell you.
Incredibly.
I will say though, talking from my point of view as a business owner and leader, it's been really tough. It's been really tough because, you can't just crumble and go into a corner and cry. You know this, Leanne, you're in the same situation.
No matter how much you feel like it.
Oh, how many times have I just closed my door and just sat behind my desk and had a little cry? But you can't show that to your staff. You've got to be strong. And so you just keep going because there is no alternative. So, the daily Zoom videos to our staff who are working from home and feeling very alone and isolated, all the different things that we would do to help keep our team together, and just the work that was involved in changing procedures on a, just on a pinhead. Lockdowns, okay, lockdown, inspections postponed, we do this, we do that, email out to the tenants, email to the owners, really sorry, can't do an inspection at your property, Mr. Owner, too bad.
Yeah.
We have to wait for lockdown to be over, and just dealing with all that stuff on top of what we normally do. As a business owner, I would just spend every weekend, every minute of the day, just changing procedures and sending emails and communicating, and it wears you down.
You're on constantly, right? You're on, you're alert for what's going to happen next, because there's so much going on all the time. And it does, it like from a physical perspective, it wears out your adrenals. I mean, it just does.
It does, yeah, very tough. So, thank God our business fared fine, and, we all have a job, and, first world problems, right?
Right.
But it does something to your stress levels and to yourself. And I think I only realised now how much it changed me, how like my heightened sense of anxiety was just up there the whole time, and any little thing would trigger me,
Right.
and I don't think I'm alone in this. I think if everyone was to be honest with themselves, if they cared about what they were doing, then
I heard an interesting stat recently. 95% of people think they're self-aware, but only 10 to 15% of people actually are. And so that whole self-awareness piece, you don't, you think you're okay and you think you're behaving normally, but you obviously are genuinely self-aware, and you've been able to see that you are different than you were pre-COVID.
It doesn't come straight away.
No.
Sometimes people have got to come with a sledgehammer and hit you over the head. So I've got good people around me. My husband is, Mr. No stress, no matter what happens. Like he's a real rock. And so he'll say to me, you're getting a bit stressed. And I'll say, no, I'm not.
No, I'm not. What are you talking about?
So, and I've got, great staff around me who, I'm down, they're up, they're down, I'm up. And so we lean on each other. So it takes a while, but then when you suddenly start to get aware of your own, body and your stress levels, then you realise, oh my gosh, that was really tough. Yeah.
Yeah. And so what have you done now to alleviate that?
Oh, look, I'm just trying to, the usual stuff, eat better, exercise more, but just, on the weekends now, the work levels have gone to a more even keel. And so you just have to have your weekends to yourself. Don't sit there and work on the weekends if you don't have to. I do a bit of very amateur singing on the side. I sing in a choir. And oh my gosh, it's just the best thing.
Yeah.
When you're singing with people, they rely on you. You've got to rehearse your part as well. And so when you're singing, you forget about everything else. So that's been a real stress release for me.
Yeah, that's an amazing thing to do, because you have to find something where you do forget everything else. A girlfriend of mine has recently taken up playing the saxophone, of all things, and she said exactly the same thing to me. She can't focus on anything but the sax when she's playing. So, yeah, that's interesting. And how are you finding, I know that 40% of property management offices are looking for people, and about 23% of property managers are saying they want to exit the industry. How are you finding that with your team?
Yes, I've made it no secret to anyone I speak to. We've had a real big change of our team. We're used to having people for years and years, and the top, management are still with us, thank God, for years. But we've had a bit of a change of our team over the past 6 or 7 months, and I'm just not used to that. So it was really, really quite difficult. Part of the reason my stress levels went up.
Sure.
So I think it's got to be more than 40%. I think a lot of agencies with a decent size team are looking for people, and I hear that a third of property managers have left the industry. I wouldn't be surprised if it was more. There's no experienced people anymore, or if there are, they're staying put, because they're loyal, and that's awesome. So we've had to have a real rethink about how we structure things. I really do think, and this is just my opinion and my perspective, I could be wrong, I think the days of the portfolio manager are slowly dying. We were very much portfolio, but we still had our leasing person and our accounts person.
Yep.
But I just think that to find that one person who can do everything, I think those days are gone, and nobody wants to do that anymore. It's just too high stress. So we're more task-based now and easier to train, because you have to train them just in their specialty.
Yeah, I was going to say it would make it easier to get people from outside of the industry to do some of those roles, right?
And it was actually forced upon us, because we had an opening of basically most of our property management positions were gone. And so we said, well, I can't find anyone with any experience, and anyone that I got with experience, I wasn't totally happy anyway, because I had really bad habits, that they brought with them. And to unlearn and relearn is way harder than just to learn. So we just had to go outside the industry. We've got people from the health industry, people from childcare. Something's happening in the childcare industry. They're all leaving, right?
Yeah.
So childcare, like lead educators who had, some smarts about them. But just from other industries who just have always wanted to get into real estate, and they're just taking this opportunity now to change, just like property managers are now changing and going to other industries.
Yeah. But it's a challenge. It's all right for you, right? You're an experienced property manager, so you can train them and you know what they should be doing, and you know what the flags are and all that stuff. But when a lot of our business owners in real estate are sales-based principals, and so they need experienced property managers, right?
Yes, and I seriously don't know how we could have done this if I hadn't been right across everything. And of course, I've got my great 2IC, Caroline, who takes care of most of the training. Thank goodness for her. But I can still, obviously, I know exactly what's going on, and I'm taking care of the procedure part of it and making sure everything works with the different tasks.
Yeah.
I don't know how other agencies would cope if they didn't have that person sort of overseeing everything. It would be hard, and they would be losing lots of clients, I think.
Yeah. Talk to me about the expectations of the people that are coming in from, working from home, flexibility and all of that sort of stuff. Because we were talking with my team recently about the fact that work from home used to be such an absolute privilege, and now it's an expectation. And instead of it attracting people to you, if you don't offer it, they won't come. They won't come to you. It's it's bloody frustrating, right?
Yeah, so there's different tasks that lend themselves easier to working from home.
Totally.
Our trust account manager, for example, she's been with us for 10 years, so she's a fixture, a permanent fixture. She actually can do her job from home, and so we've got her working one day a week at home, and it suits her and it suits us. But again, she's also the trainer of the admin team. She's also the manager of the admin team, and admin have to be here at the office to answer phones, etc. And so she can't be home permanently, and she doesn't want to be. No, property managers, they can do some things from home, but again, if they're also new, you can't train people who are sitting at home. I mean, you can if you have to, but it's not ideal. And I've got to say that I had this conversation with everyone. And I said to them, hey, if you really want to work from home, come and chat with me, because we're open to being flexible. But all of them went, nah, because one of them, she was quite a new PM, and she had to stay home. She was in lockdown because she got COVID. She was able to still work, but she wasn't allowed out. And so she was working from home for a week, and she said, oh my God, Laura, I couldn't wait to get back to the office.
Out of here.
She was lonely. She didn't like it. She felt, not supported. So they hate it. They actually don't like it. So
I had a situation where I was talking to somebody this week who said one of their team members who they really like was leaving, and they said, why? It's like, oh, well, I don't want to be at home. I want to be working. I want to be working in the office. It's like, we let you go home because you wanted to go home. Oh, yeah, but now it's time for me to come back into the office. And I really wanted to have a bit more travel with my role. It's like, COVID? Anyone? Like, there's been no travel for it. So it's really interesting. People are making these decisions without even going back and speaking to their leaders. So you really need to make sure you're having that close conversation, right?
Oh, yeah. Look, can I just say, any people out there who've got a boss to answer to, if you're not happy with something, please just speak to them.
Yeah.
Because they can't read your mind.
Yeah, exactly. As much as we'd like to pretend we can, we can't.
Yeah, no, we can't.
Yeah, exactly. So what's ahead for you and your business, Laura?
Look, I think at the moment, we're stabilising. We were always about growing, had our 2 BDMs up until a couple of years ago. Let's grow. And, we've got up to over 1,000 properties, sort of all around Brisbane. But then COVID and the staff changes, and I'm a believer in you cannot look at growing your business unless what you have is really, really secure. And so, owners feel unsettled when their property manager changes.
Yep.
No matter how many emails I send to them, they're still asking, who's my property manager? It's okay. We've got a team looking after you. So we have to be very careful to make sure we over-service. And then once we've got our new staff properly trained, that they know how to answer any question that comes to them, then we'll look at sort of increasing our numbers. Because, of course, as you know, everyone's selling their properties, aren't they? So we do have a little sales team as well, so we're able to service those clients. But, of course, it means our numbers are going down a little bit. It's been a bit of a blessing at the moment because we know that we're not overloaded and we can provide that service that we always have. But eventually we're going to have to start putting those numbers back. So next few years we'll be slowly, building again. And then I don't know, we'll see what the industry has in store for us. I was watching a webinar with some real thought leaders who were experts on data and what was happening with the investment industry and property management. And they were all asked the question, what's property management going to look like in the next 5 years? And none of them could answer.
Oh, really?
They couldn't answer. They couldn't say, what's disruption going to look like? What's the property manager's job going to look like? And they just all said, we don't know what's in store. So so how can us mere mortals, figure that one out?
Exactly.
But I think it's, again, the idea of the portfolio manager. I think that's going to slowly die, and it's more a team of experts in their certain fields who are able to provide that great expert professional service. And then we see what happens then.
Yeah, I agree that I think you'd be very brave to be predicting the future after what we've gone through in the last few years. It's been so lovely to catch up with you. Thank you so much for taking the time. And I will look forward to seeing you at a real estate event sometime soon.
Definitely. Lovely to speak with you, Leanne.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Courageous Conversations, with thanks to connectnow.com.au. Don't forget to get access to all of Elite Agency's premium resources, including a detailed episode guide for this podcast. Visit joineliteagent.com.
Hi everyone, Leanne here again. Just a reminder, mental health and crisis support is available from Lifeline at 13 11 14 or call 000 if a life is in danger.